and gentlemen, I know the as I proceed to break my microphone. Oh boy. It's a scuff start today. Hello and welcome everybody. Folktales and curiosities. With your host Axel and my co-host Knox. Get him pulled in here shortly. But a couple things before we start. I want to apologize about the lack of our podcast for the past 2 weeks. We've been kind of busy and we just kind of forgot 1 week, so I'm sorry. Things happen. In fact, we almost didn't do it again this Sunday simply because of the fact that we thought we were gonna have family coming over. But anywho, our start times for Cocktails and Curiosities is probably going to change here soon, and I will have to, get with Knox and see the exact time when we're going to start it. More than likely, it's probably going to start about 6 o'clock. Yeah. Or 5, 6, whichever we do. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I'll keep you guys in the loop on Twitter on how that goes. This week we will be talking about game design. And I mean that as a very blanket term, not just development and all that stuff, but board games, video game design, just game design in general. It's made and how it, and our insights and exploits into it, and we got what we've learned from it. So without any further ado, let me get my boy in here. Hello.
Hi.
It is
Hi,
it's,
hello.
it's been a hot minute.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Me and you have both been a little preoccupied, huh?
Yeah, pretty busy.
Yeah, it's just been kind of that way. But we have for the most part returned.
Yes.
I've already kind of filled them in with what's going on, and what's the reasoning behind our absence.
Yeah, we've been
kind of
busy boys.
Yes.
Busy boys.
But we have for the most part returned, and
For the most part, other than a change in what time we're coming online.
Also, did we decide it was gonna be 5 or 6 o'clock that we're gonna be starting? Like how early are we?
For now, 5. I think 5's decent.
So yeah, our podcasts are gonna start at 5 o'clock on Sundays now. We had to push the time back because we have other stuff going on Sundays now.
Yep.
So yeah.
Game design. That
Yes.
is our current topic for today. Because I've been rambling and raving on about hyperdimensional objects and weird ass shit. I thought it'd be good to take a step back, get a little grounded, and let Axel do a little more talking. So I'll let you go first.
Well, when it comes to game design just as a whole, and game development and all that, I have a pretty good insight into it. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a hobby of mine to kind of go through and like the ins and outs of game development and how they're put together and how they work and all that lovely jazz. But most of my insight comes from personal research and word of mouth from other people and a little bit of just like, you know, a little bit of graphic design research as well, because I was going to go to a graphic design school at one point and just never really pulled the trigger on it fully. But yeah. Where exactly do I start? Let's see.
I think we should give like a basic overview on our kind of our design philosophies and how we view design, and kind of not go too in depth this episode because we don't have a lot of time, but
Yeah.
just give some basic feeling into what we want to talk about in the matter.
Well, when it comes to game development and design just as a whole, and not just like video games, but board games or any games in general, of course your basic premise when you make a game isn't for your technical prowess. That's not the point. The point of making a game isn't to fucking show off. I want to make that clear immediately, because we've had too many AAA titles that look really, really nice and play really, really shit.
Yeah, I can see that.
My, I guess you call it build philosophy when it comes to designing a game, if I were to basically be given full reign on being like a head lead designer, is the game is meant to be fun. It's not meant to be easy, but it is meant to be fun. Give me a good gameplay loop that can keep me coming back and keep playing it for an extended period of time while still making it challenging. Because that's one thing I don't really like about today's games. There's a lot of games nowadays that hold the player's hand a little too much. And I only really see an actual difficulty curve when you go to less known developers, namely indie game developers. Indie game developers seem to be the only people who have the stones to tell the player, here's the basic premise, here's the basic rules, figure the rest out yourself. So when it comes to game development as a whole, I think, to me, you need to find a good balance between fun and challenge. Because to me, a game is meant to challenge the player. It's to give them something to use their brain with, and not just unga bunga, I point cursor to point A to point B and shoot, or move item, or use ability, or what have you.
I always say, personally, as a counter, my view of game design is mostly, for me at least, because I know you come from a background of video game design. I come from a background of mostly tabletop world building and design. Is that, yes, I want it to be fun, but my main goal when I go into designing something is always to send a message, to say something about something.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times my issues with games are whether the gameplay loop is satisfying or not. If there's nothing more substantial to it, I won't be playing it for very long because I'll just get bored of it. There's got to be something. There's got to be something more for me there. Like this is why I don't like most MMOs, is because there's not really much there.
The devs don't give you enough of a bone as far as like substance, and I mean substance as in like lore or story or what have you, to kind of chew on while you're playing.
Yeah, I want does World of Warcraft tell you why magic even works in their setting? Like that kind of stuff is the stuff I like to tease on.
To be
Like,
fair, out of all the MMOs, World of Warcraft probably has some of the deepest fucking lore I have ever seen from a video game, and that's just mainly because of how
okay,
long it's been running.
that's my fault for picking a terrible example, but that's the only like MMO that I'm like even really aware of.
Or well, here's a better example. It's um, I know people are gonna give me shit for this, but Skyrim, just as a whole, an example. Outside of like the baseline story, they don't really explain much else.
Yeah,
Like
even
they
the
don't.
baseline that was my even the baseline story they don't really explain what the fuck is going on that well.
Yeah, unless you like sit there and like dig and dig and
Mm-hmm.
dig. Like there's a lot of effort you have to go through to just be like, why the fuck is this going on? Who the fuck are these people? Why do these things work? How do these things work? And and so on and so forth. I don't think Skyrim delves deep enough versus where Warcraft literally delves into literally every little aspect.
And that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy, but also like, for example, I think Matthew Colville said it best because he's a DM that I very much, I wouldn't say I look up to him per se, but he and I have very similar design philosophies and game philosophies. Um, but he, as he said it, fuck, what the hell was I gonna say? Um, what were we talking about? I know I'm like 80 years old, but bear with me.
Lore in general. You were going on a lore tangent. You look up to Colville for design design philosophy.
Oh, that's what it was. As he says, my because both of us have similar game styles. He says that a lot of his games tend to have some kind of political like intrigue going on.
Mm-hmm.
But as he puts it, his games aren't political games. They're about humans. They're games about, or to be more precise, he says they're games about people. You know, like
They're living
how
worlds
people,
with like
yeah,
living people.
how people interact, how people get by, the fundamental mysteries of life, even going that far. You know, I like to make very like crunchy worlds. I like to make lots of things in there to chew on. Well, I'd say they're more chewy than crunchy. Um,
We use
Crunchy
Crunchy for different
exhibits,
things.
yeah, Crunchy exhibits more of a the idea of like they're rough, but a lot of my worlds are very chewy. They're not. There's not like I don't really make grim dark worlds, and I don't. But
Mm-hmm.
I also don't make like standard fantasy worlds. A lot of times they'll have like a mixture of both, and I try and show a lot of different sides of how people interact and how people present themselves in a way of like my what I'm trying to give to my players is I'm trying to give um God, what is it? Like a
Thought
different
provoking.
perspective.
Stop provoking.
Yeah, well, even if it's not that thought provoking, even if it's not like I want to give them multiple perspectives on issues and ideas. Like
It's
when
like
I
a
do plot
consider this
twists,
moment, basically.
yeah, when I do plot twists, I want to do like oh, I want to go over what I have planned for like the finale. But I don't know if any of my players listen to this. I know you are one of them, but um
Well, you might want to explain to the audience what exactly you're talking about, because we haven't announced that yet.
Oh, I'm running a D&D game, but it's not gonna be like streamed or anything.
Yeah.
That's I'm if you don't know what D&D is, why? Get out from under your rock. No. But seriously, at this point,
Slightly
everyone
become
should know
a
what that is.
a nerd
And,
just for a little bit. Put your glasses on for a moment.
If you don't know what D&D is, go look it up because I don't have time to explain it. And it's very easy to figure out an answer.
Yeah. It's like 10-minute stops.
Mm-hmm. But
It's a role playing game. You throw dice. It's a tabletop, and it's fun. Done.
tabletop RPG, TTRPG.
Yeah.
But I'm trying. Like I try and when I do twists, I try and do it in such a way that when you get to the twist, it's not one of those ones where it's like, it was the butler all along. It was you were doing something that you didn't realize you were doing because you couldn't see far enough ahead. Like those are normally my twists are like so it turns out you were working for the villain the entire time and you didn't realize it or something like that.
The way I envision it, and this is my analogy for it, it's like when you get those mystery like I guess pop suckers, like the mystery suckers that like, this is a mystery sucker, you don't know what flavor it is, and you suck on it for a little bit and realize, is that pineapple, is that coconut, and then you realize, oh shit, no, that's lemon drop. Like you give the players something to chew on and chew on and chew on until you finally say, hey, no, that's more like this.
No, it's more like I don't give them anything to chew on. That's the thing. I give them something to think about after the game is over.
Okay.
A lot of times what it is it's more like someone handed you a sucker and you were sucking on it and you're like, man, it's almost, I'm just gonna crunch into it. Crunch into it, it's like, oh, it's got gum inside. And it just surprises the fuck out of you. Those are my kind of twists. Like, you never realized you were going to get the gum all along. I don't know. I don't know why we're using like mystery pops as an example, but that's
I don't know.
How I do it is like I try and give a twist where it's not like the answer was actually this, even though it looked like it was that all along. I like giving a twist where the players will stop and look back at all of the actions they've done and what they've seen and talked about and been through, and it will change the way they look at it.
Gotcha. You more or less give the players an opportunity to not just look from their perspective, but start looking at other perspectives as well. Like, hey, well, looked at it this way. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's their perspective either way. What I want is to give them a new perspective by the end of it. Because a lot, like, for example, a lot of D&D has this stereotype or this not stereotype, but it's like a trap that a lot of players fall into of, we're the good guys, we fight the monsters, we kill the monsters. Here's an example of a my style of twist or turn something on its head. Is there's a story about a group of adventurers, this is people playing, and they went and attacked a goblin camp. And they went to a town. The town was like, "Hey, we have goblins nearby. Can you take them out for us?" And the adventurers were like, "Yeah, sure. They're goblins. Goblins are horrible. Let's go kill them." They kill the entire goblin camp, and they're sitting later at a tavern. And this is where the like conversation picks up between, I think it's the rogue and like a paladin, like a lawful good paladin. rather than the 2 players in the party. And the essentially the paladin is, you know, what's the lambasting the rogue for how evil he is, and the rogue is like, you know, all things are of relative perspective and that kind of conversation. Like that's the 2 story beats they're thinking of. But the idea was that I forgot exactly what it was, but he had some kind of note or information that he had gathered on his own that showed that the goblins weren't, like, for example, if my players go to fight those goblins in my setting, the goblins say the village, like, the goblins keep attacking us. Can you go kill them for us? Like, either the town attacked the goblins first and they just want revenge. The goblins are just trying to like get revenge and, you know, getting brutally slaughtered. Or like, for example, the goblins have been pushed out of their home territory because, and they're coming this way in search of food, or, you know, those kind of things. Like, it'll be like, for example, you know, goblins are a playable race. This, you know, there's a story of a goblin that went into town to just get supplies. They had gold, they were going to buy it, they weren't attacking anyone. And they come into town and the town just attacks them and slaughters them on the spot because they're a goblin. And goblins are normally considered evil, which is, I think, the thing I should have started this with. Goblins in D&D are almost always considered an evil alignment. They're an evil race. So they're one of the races that, like, if you attacked them on sight, no one would really bat an eyelash. But I always like to make it so that, not always, but like a lot of times, I will make it so that you get to a point in the future and you look back and realize, oh my god, we've done a lot of horrible shit. That you thought you were being the hero the whole time, but really you were the villain. Like, that's the kind of twists I pull out, where it's like, actually, you're not as good of a person as you think you are.
Gotcha.
Or even if somehow I could twist an evil campaign into doing this, yeah, I would do the same thing to an evil campaign, just because that sounds hilarious. A bunch of evil villains that have just been terrorizing a city, but what they never realize is them terrorizing the people that they terrorized was actually making the city a better place, and they were kind of heroes.
They inadvertently turned into vigilantes without even realizing it.
Like they were like, let's go rob the bank, and in the process of robbing the bank, they accidentally clear all the debts that everyone has in the city, like loans, or like things like that, where it's like, I want to give I think the villain one's bad. I think it's just funny. I don't think it actually gives any perspective. But the idea of, because everyone goes into D&D with certain conceptions, certain ideas of like how it should be. And when they have those ideas and you subvert those ideas, that allows them to think on what they do. It gives them more thoughts what they do. And by doing that to a player, you can let the person who is playing the game think more about what choices they're making in the game, and that will then come out in their actual life, where outside of the game they also will think more on their choices and what they're actually doing. That's kind of my view of game design. Game design is an art medium to give someone a new perspective or show things that can't normally be shown.
Well, that's something we can both agree on. I do believe that just gaming in general, IRL gaming or video gaming, both have in common. I do believe that gaming as a whole is an art form. It's not just, you know, hey, I made this because it's fun. It's more of like, hey, this looks cool. This is art. This is also a way to send out a message I wouldn't normally be able to convey in, you know, a typical manner like you would in a book or even just in a speech. It's like, hey, here's my medium. I intend to use it for this purpose.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
and
there's some, like, for example, I think, because this is one that I recently watched and listened to, was Titanfall. Titanfall
mhm,
2. The story, they said the storyline, it was a guy breaking it down. He said the storyline of Titanfall 2 is the one that can only be conveyed through the medium of the game. It can't be conveyed through a movie or anything else because the player plays the character. And the
mhm,
whole idea is to give the player the things they wanted in the first Titanfall, and to basically say trust us, was the, I think the like the idea was, hey, we know we fucked up, but here's something good.
yeah, it was a love letter to the players.
Yeah. And that's something you can only do in a game. You can't make a love letter to an audience in a movie theater, and you can't really make a love letter to, you can, I mean, literally, you could make a love letter to the reader of a book, literally, but
Mhm,
like, there's something, I think, I think video games actually, in my opinion, have something in common with books in the level of intimacy, because normally one plays a game or reads a book alone. It's a solo activity. And I think I think books and tabletop role playing have a lot in common in terms of like the emotions it evokes and the style you can use. Of course, there are some things that can't be done in a book or that can't be done in a tabletop playing game without some like finagling or other shit.
mhm.
But the the when you're a reader or you're a player, it's you who the characters are talking to, essentially. I think as a reader it's a little less so, but like, especially as a player, when you're playing as a character and a person in the game turns to talk to you, they're talking to two people. They're talking to the character you're playing as and you. And that can give a certain, there's a certain kind of,
Best word's
or
intimacy. That's the best word I can
yeah,
come up with.
there's a certain intimacy to that, but there's a certain kind of art that can only be expressed that way. Like, for example, I think Metal Gear Solid, which is one of my favorite childhood growing up games, uh, did this, like, the one I've watched a lot of analysis on different Metal Gear games, but like even just the first Metal Gear Solid, not Metal Gear, but the first Metal Gear Solid, because there's two different games. Um, the who is it? Liquid, I think, says,
Mhm,
he goes, hold on, there. He goes, you enjoy all the killing, don't you? To Solid Snake, and that is both a statement to Snake in the moment, but it's also a statement to the player, because the player has just been, they're just, code on the screen, mindless code.
mhm.
So he's pointing out the fact that you enjoy doing all that. They might not be real people, but you enjoyed it. Like, that's it. It's a two statements are being made there. One to a character in the game, but also one to the player, because that player plays that character, and it's a stand-in for the player.
Mhm.
Um, hold on. You talk for a minute, because I need to type something up.
Well, I actually recently watched my own couple analyses because something popped up on my feed that I thought was interesting. It was for Killzone, actually. Killzone's been around for a while.
I think I know what you're talking about. Actually, it's the Killzone. Killzone is a misunderstood anti-war masterpiece.
Yes.
Is that the one you're referring to?
Yes. It outlines Killzone nearly to a T. And I agree with a lot of it because it shows two diametrically opposed forces who, in all reality, hate each other for some really dumb fucking reasons, who've made some really stupid decisions in the name of their version of peace.
Yeah. Also, I will point out that, like, what is it? Like, part 1 is like 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch it. I just saw it and I was like, that sounds interesting. Then I saw the timestamp and the fact that that was part 1 of like 3 parts. And I was like, I'll have to come back to you on that one. Sorry.
It's a long series, but it's a good one.
Yeah. I want to watch it. I just haven't.
I
been very busy.
The Killzone series, and it's one of the few like shooter games I will sit down and say, I'm not really going to play much of the multiplayer. I'm playing this for the story. Because the story, if you actually sit down and think about it, not just like mindlessly play it, but like sit down, think about it, and listen to what they say, it is very much an anti-war story. Like, to a T. I'm like, bruh, I've played this game for years and I remember a lot of this stuff, but even I at the time didn't like think about it because I was a kid when I played it. Like, I actually want to go back and replay Killzone, I think Shadowfall it's called, the recent iteration of it. One, because it plays really well, but also story in it's actually pretty good. But
yeah,
Killzone as a series is very interesting if you also compare it to like real world events too. It's a fairly powerful message that they send.
Yep.
My only issue with it is because it's a shooter, and I know it's not their fault.
It's apparently a shit game. No, I'm just kidding.
No. It's the message doesn't immediately come across.
Well, yeah, but that Killzone has the same. Metal Gear does this too because they both are kind of shooting games. One's a stealth espionage, but still, the fact that it's an anti-war thing and you play a soldier in all of them allows for the same kind of dynamic that I do within my campaigns, which is you are the problem. You caused this, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to the point where you realize that's the point of the game, that you're the fucking problem, or you're at least part of it, or if nothing else, you're not helping, even though you thought this entire game, we're the heroes, right? And then realize by the end of it, no, we're not. We're very much not the heroes. That's the kind of like, I'd say I call it turncoat perspective. It's the sudden realize that you were the betrayer, or that you're the turncoat, you're the traitor in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want the story to betray the characters. I want the characters to have realized they betrayed themselves.
Yeah.
That's the kind of perspectives I try and give, because that allows them to think on their actions in a deeper manner.
What's that saying? Like, it's like live short or live long enough to become the villain or something like that?
Oh, it's you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah. I like that. I want it makes the player think, yo, did the things that I do, was it worth it? Did I set out to do what I was going to do, what I was going to do? Not what
Or
they
better
wanted
yet-
me to do.
Yeah, or better yet, a lot of times, speaking of what they wanted me to do, a lot of players will just take whatever quests they get and just go do it. It's like, it's money, we're doing it. And then I'll add a bunch of like story implications in there, but not really say, not really say much about it and not really give, too much information on it. But
Mhm.
then them go, and then later it's like, maybe they fight the big bad, but the big bad is actually the hero of this campaign, and they never
Mhm.
realized it because they were just following orders. They were just taking whatever quests came along,
Mhm.
and they confront them about all the horrible things they did, and the characters are like, "What the hell?"
Again,
And I give them just enough lore to, like, every time I do like one of those quests, I'll make sure to give them just enough information to feel sketch about it, but not enough information to conclusively say, no, this is a bad quest. And every single quest will be like that until like the villain comes to them and goes, "You guys are horrible people." And they're like, "Actually, now that you say that, we've realized that you might be right. You just confirmed all of our suspicions that we've been thinking about this entire game, but haven't said anything."
also, I don't mean to cut in, but this is the 15-minute warning.
Yep, I've been watching the time.
Yep.
I like to probably cut it like around 55, like 5:55.
Or we can cut it now and actually give you a full 15 minutes to prep if you want, if you have any closing statements or anything like that.
My closing statement is, this is just us rambling about game design, and we will come back to this probably next episode. We will be back. We will try and get things done properly and fully. And that's my
Yeah,
closing statement.
that's about accurate. Well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
let you go. I'm gonna go ahead and make my closing statement with the boys and girls here, and I will wrap up today's podcast. So
Alrighty.
thank you so much, Knox. I appreciate your time, and I will talk to you shortly.
Alrighty.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna be it for today. I know we were ending it a little bit shorter on our time frame. We usually go for about an hour, and we're going for just about 41 minutes now, about 42. Mainly because we started a bit later than we were expecting. I literally lost track of time. I was like, oh shit, we need to start. Mainly because like we need to start the podcast earlier to like last minute. So it is what it is though. But if you enjoyed today's podcast, a follow would be greatly appreciated. We do this just about every Sunday in case we forget or something happens. We'll let you know on Twitter in case something does. But we usually do this about every Sunday. The chimes have changed to from 8 p.m. Central Standard Time to 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. We moved this 3 hours back, so we have stuff we now do on Sundays, and it gives us a little bit more time at the end of our day to just kind of do what we need to do. But it is what it is. Also, if you just like what I do in general, like I said, consider following me here on Twitch, or consider subscribing on the YouTube channel. I do cocktails and curiosities on there. I basically multi-stream it. I also do Behind the Veil, which I missed last week. I'm going to do it this week on Wednesday. That's basically me pulling off the veil that is my avatar and talking to you guys person to person with, me, and get you some insights in what's going on in my life and what I do in my off time. Additionally, soon TM, I will have airsoft content going up. I know I've said it a couple times and I keep mentioning, and I will keep mentioning it to keep reminding you it's going to happen and to remind myself. But I just need to get my equipment ordered. I have all the parts that I need like in my cart. I just need to order them and do my editing to my hardware to make sure I can make good quality content for you guys. But outside of that, I will see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, we're gonna be streaming some more Elite Dangerous because I've been playing that a lot and it's fun. But as I said, this has been Cocktails and Curiosities. I appreciate your time. If you have any comments, concerns, or just ideas for our next podcasts, leave a comment down below on YouTube. And if you're watching me on, Twitch, go poke my Twitter. It's a good place to keep up with me. Or hell, even on both ends, go poke my Twitter. I do read all of my messages that I get in my DMs. So, yeah.